Oh, didn't answer yet again. You know, every time you don't answer my calls, it's Latinx erasure. Latinx erasure. Yeah, you've been called out.
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy.
Welcome to Living with Jonathan and Katy.
And Katy.
Hey, sluts.
Hey, sluts. How are you doing? You guys slutting it up in the sluts year?
Well, we have on such an amazing guest today, a great comedian and artist. Katy, do you consider yourself an artist?
An artiste.
An artiste.
That's the feminine pronoun I approve of. What's my history with art? I was an artist early on. I did draw a panda out of pastels. A lot of shading, a lot of coloring.
Pastels, honestly, I don't see enough of them anymore.
I know. We need to bring them back.
They're so great. They're like crayons, but way better.
They're the gayest tool.
Yes.
Because they're like bright colors. They
Yeah.
have a lot of attitude. They can be soft. They can be hard.
Yeah, like the hard, like almost like plastic pastel,
Yes, yeah.
or the soft waxy pastel that's almost like semi-dried paint.
And you can blend them. That's
Yes.
the best part with your little finger.
Yeah.
I did a stunning pastel of a panda for Endangered Species Week. Did it win an award? Yes. Did it get displayed at the public library? Yes. And did I discover recently when I put a Google alert on my name that it has been digitized on the internet by the Fullerton Public Library? It's literally from 1993 and it's iconic. It's a panda eating a bamboo leaf.
Wow.
Content for the Instagram for sure.
I can see that you've always said something with your art.
Yes, really a lot of statements. Oh, and then in high school at the time, I was trying to be into cars because boys liked cars, and it was the Fast and Furious era. So I did do a white pencil on black of the new Nissan Z, and I thought that was really just gonna.
Ladies and gay boys out there, don't be into cars just because fucking boys have.
Don't be like seriously drawing a pencil sketch of a Nissan Z.
That's awful. That's tragic.
It is. My mom had it up on her wall for a long time.
You know what you should do? Fix it by putting a panda inside the Nissan Z, eating bamboo.
And that is gentrification.
What
about you?
I won many awards in my youth for my art. I won first place at the Pasadena Christian Arts Fair. And it was, we had to like
stiff competition.
We had to, well, yes, there was two other competitors.
It was you against the Lord, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
The Lord lifted me up, and who am I to deny him? I painted with pastels, basically like a Frida Kahlo inspired still life. So I did like fruits on a terrace,
also very gay.
Yeah, like a bunch of fruits on a table on a terrace with a parrot sitting on the balcony of the terrace in the moonlight with like vines hanging out from the awning.
Oh my god.
So I painted that.
The detail.
Yeah, and I got first place. And honestly, my mom has it. When I look back, I'm like, it legit is really good. And I never ever replicated that amount of skill ever again. It was one of those things that I just loved Frida so much, so
the muse came to you.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, you know. But then the next year I won honorable mention by another pastel of a white peasant woman crying in the fields, and she's crying blood, and the blood is spilling down her and splashing off the field, and she's like all wet and she's in rags. It's very like colonized Celt of the British Isles. It's very that. It got honorable mention because I think I think it was honestly too ahead of its time. I think it was very like, why is she crying blood? He's 11, like, you know.
No, the real question is, did you title it?
Yeah.
What was it called?
White Women Bleed.
I would love if you came to my house and was like, I have some housewarming presents, and they were gilded frames of your moonlit parrot and the white woman crying. I would full on put that in my
the
centerpiece.
white woman crying is in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, and
please, you have to send me them.
It's actually quite a disturbing painting when you actually look at it now. I do have to say, it, especially from afar, it could look like just like, you know, when like adult artists try to like paint like a child or whatever. And it looks like that, but that's what it was.
Oh my gosh. So I guess we're both award-winning artists.
Yeah.
But we chose to let other people have the limelight, and we went to comedy.
We went
instead.
into comedy, yeah, and we're suffering the consequences for it.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, I bleed everywhere and always in fields, so I don't know.
So I was right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys take a listen to this episode. We're super excited about it. Greg Edwards is just a great comedian and a great artist, and he has an exhibit coming up in a few days. It's December 14th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the AC Bill Brew Library at the African American Resource Center. Also, check our Instagram, check Greg's Instagram for more info. Go check it out. Go buy art. Listen to his album.
Yeah. All those things. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Love you.
This is where you can put Greg's comedy clip.
Today in studio we have Greg Edwards, who is a wonderful stand-up comedian, actor, and artist who you may know as Sparky Sweets, PhD from Thug Notes, which is also an audiobook that you can get on audible.com. His comedy album Dopamine, available on Spotify, and he's been featured on Comedy Central, BET, MTV, and the New York Times. Please welcome our friend and wonderful comedian Greg Edwards.
Yay! Welcome, Greg.
Thank you,
Greg,
guys.
you haven't appeared in Goop yet?
What's up, Goop? What's
Please, Goop?
Oh,
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's
Katy, yeah.
newsletter. It's my essence. No, I'm kidding.
Gwyneth Paltrow has a newsletter?
You don't know about Goop? Okay, we will talk about that later.
No. Let's talk about it now.
Okay, no. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
She has a newsletter?
this is like the number one most parodied thing. She has a blog and an industry. It's like a multi-million-dollar company.
Good for her.
But all she does is promo like white lady wellness.
It's one of the most
holistic
hated
stuff.
companies ever.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because the stuff is unattainable. It'll be like, when I like to make coffee, I like to make whole bean coffee out of this golden espresso machine that costs $5,000.
Yes.
I have one in my house, and everyone's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
How is it popular though?
Oh, so popular. And
Yeah.
she's starting to do these like kind of like, you know how Oprah goes on tour and does these big
She's
things.
doing it off of
She
Oprah.
does those. She also she really won and lost my heart when this was years back. She did a post about Paris.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and it literally was like, the first man who ever took me to Paris was my father, and I always feel that every girl should have that experience.
Go ahead,
So
Gwyneth.
gross.
Meeting your dad in Paris, I don't know. It's the most unrelatable.
Goop?
Fantastic. Goop.
GWOP?
GOOP.
Oh, GOOP.
It started as her own personal newsletter that she would email to friends, and then
Yeah.
it became, now it's truly like a multi-million-dollar media company.
Damn,
I can't believe you didn't know.
I
Greg.
didn't know
We'll
that.
get you featured. We'll get you like a.
I like
you know,
Gwyneth. People, yeah, I'm cool with Gwyneth.
She doesn't. I don't think she deserves all the hate she gets, but
Yeah.
that's speaking as someone who is often called Gwyneth in public.
She's just a rich girl.
She is.
I
I
know,
mean, she
She's
can't
a
help
rich
it.
girl. She can, yeah, she doing what she does.
That's the thing. Like, you hate her so much because it's like, are you fucking in touch with reality?
No.
Yeah.
Stupid, you know. But then you're just kind of like, you've always from the get go, because she's from Beverly Hills.
yeah,
Like,
from jump.
Yeah.
she's just always going to be on this level, and it's like, I guess she doesn't want to hurt us. But
I know. Yeah.
like,
She's not trying to kill us.
Yeah.
I take it as a personal
Yes.
attack.
She could be like a hardcore Republican, like kill these poor people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I fuck with Gwyneth. Go
But
ahead,
it's
girl.
better.
Shakespeare in Love. I fuck with you.
Oh, my queen. We talked about that in episode 1. You guys can go back and listen to that. But back to Greg.
Oh man,
But
I'm learning
Greg-
shit. This is great.
You, you are a staple in the LA comedy scene.
Oh, that's nice.
A king. I'd call him a king.
Yes.
Oh, that's even sweeter.
We do love you. The great thing about Greg is that he's funny, and also everyone likes you.
Everyone likes
And
you.
that
I
is
don't know if everybody
hard.
likes me.
I mean, everyone that we know,
Everyone who
comedically
matters.
and
No.
in real life, like you.
That's nice.
Yeah,
though.
because
Yeah.
it
I try to be
sometimes
nice to people.
Sometimes it's not congruent. Sometimes it's like we love that person, but comedically no, or we think they're hilarious, but in person we
You're not
hate
a nice
them.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
No, I try to be cool with everybody. Yeah, I try to be nice to people. I really like folks, especially comedians, and I get like, you know, how hard it is to be a comic. And so, you know, some people aren't nice to like new comics, and I don't like that. I'm like, come on, man. You know, you wouldn't like it when you were new and older comics used to shit on people.
Yeah.
So I just try to be cool with people and try to talk to people.
And they're going to be gone in a year. So
Yeah,
just be
exactly.
nice while they're here.
Exactly.
I'm so
You know,
vicious.
So just be nice, you know. But it's,
No.
you know, yeah.
But I also, you are a very positive person in that, like, is something that even your Twitter feed, like everything, it is. You're the only person who's positive who doesn't annoy me with it. You know,
I appreciate
and
it.
that it's really hard to do.
Well, because he
so-
doesn't post quotes that's like, if you find a flower, think about the beauty inside. It's just something like some stupid crap like that.
No, I'm trying to, I mean, anytime like I post something positive, I try to post it for other people, but it's mostly for me. It's mostly like telling me to like get up and like do the shit that I want to do, and yeah. Thanks though. This is hella nice on a Sunday.
Yeah,
This
we're
is
happy
beautiful.
to have you.
But you have and what we want to talk to you about today is, and we're gonna play some, if it's okay to play some clips of your stand up from just like YouTube or whatever's on.
It's fine.
But you have an art exhibit.
I do. Yeah.
It's about redlining.
Redlining,
Can you explain to us what that is for the listeners?
Redlining happened in the 1920s and the 1930s, where basically the United States government was trying to they redline communities, whereas this wasn't redline. It was red line, yellow line, green line. If certain communities, if you wanted to move into a neighborhood and you wanted to move into a neighborhood that was stereotypically redlined, they wouldn't give you the loan to move into these neighborhoods. The red line neighborhoods was mostly Black and Latino neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods, they weren't funded. So like those neighborhoods wouldn't have libraries, grocery stores, hospitals, banks. So they tried to just keep people in these other neighborhoods, like the green neighborhoods. The white are these Asian neighborhoods. Even the Asian neighborhoods were like yellow. That's not nice. But they were like basically just putting these neighborhoods in boxes so they weren't getting funded. And basically, and that's what we have today. Like you have these neighborhoods all throughout LA, all throughout the country that are just like shit on. And like the government basically made ghettos.
It's economic segregation,
Exactly.
basically.
And yeah, and so I just I found these maps. These maps have always been around. Ta-Nehisi Coates, really good, great author who I love to read all of his books and his essays. He did an essay on the fight for reparations, which he just did it through redlining. And that got me really interested in the redlining maps. But I was already looking at them before. And I found these maps. I found like a site that had all of them, like all of them together. And I just, I would just like download the maps because I thought of like, it's something I want to do with these artistically. And then I figured it out. And I started like placing like famous Black celebrities, authors, athletes, musicians, politicians over the areas where they were from, in the redlining areas, just try to keep their face, their image a little bit. And it was a hit. People really enjoyed them. I did I've always been an artist. I've always drawn ever since I was a kid. And I just wanted to figure out, like doing comedy, you get so stuck in doing comedy, going to the mics, going to the shows. I felt like I needed another outlet. So yeah, and people really dug them. I did an art show and people came and bought a lot of it and it got a lot of attention. And yeah, and it's been really great. It's been people have been buying stuff and it's been cool. People have been really nice and starting a conversation. People that really didn't know about it. Yeah, it's been great.
Have you gotten any feedback or pushback like online or any good or bad? Anybody commenting or?
No, not really. I mean, everything's really been positive. I did do one thing when I was doing the red line. I did like another piece. And I saw somebody jack the whole thing, and that was kind of like upsetting. But
For what?
I did like when I was doing the red lining, I got really into Coretta Scott King.
Okay.
In a creepy, it was in a creepy way. She was fine, y'all.
Coretta Scott
So
Queen.
fine. I was like, fuck Martin. I mean, Martin's dope. But Coretta, y'all know about Coretta? Coretta older than him. Coretta went to law school, medical school. I mean,
She was the first Michelle?
she was the first Michelle.
Wow.
Like.
I
People
didn't
don't
know
even
that.
know, man. Like, Coretta went to school in Boston. Martin followed her out there.
Yeah.
Coretta's just a badass woman, and I got really into her, and I started doing a lot of art. And I took a picture off of her, and I put it under like a Jet magazine cover, and I used the Jet logo and a picture of her, and I made it look real cool. And like maybe like 3 months later, somebody did a whole art show of that with other people. Like they used the jet.
They jacked your concept?
They jacked my concept
For an art show, not even for like their like social or whatever.
No, they jacked the whole concept, and they put like use jet and use other people in different style and graphics.
Were you able to call them out?
No, I mean I did want. Well, it made me. I looked at the day I posted that, and then they actually liked it. They liked the post, and then I just tracked it down, and I was like, that's just how shit happens sometimes. So it's all good, but that's
See
the
how
only
positive
thing.
he is?
I can't get mad about it. I mean, like, I can get upset about it and let it bother me, but that's not going to do anything. He already made his money off of it, and I'll just make cool shit. What it really does for me is like, oh, cool.
You make
I make dope shit, and it's so dope that other people want to get it. So I just gotta make dope shit and then put water drops over it.
Yeah, watermarks. Yeah,
watermarks over it. But even if I put a watermark over it, they can still take it. It's just
I
just gotta you just gotta keep creating and
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. This is what you were telling me when I saw you at that show in the Valley a few weeks ago.
When?
Cindy Aravena's show. That when this happened, your girlfriend was so furious that you had not put a watermark on there.
Oh, this is something else. I did a show in San Diego, and I did my Blame Social Media show, and none of the comics showed up, so we had to basically do ourselves. You've done this. You guys have done the show.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to like go through our own stuff, and they went through my Instagram, and Quincy was pointing out some of my artwork. And after the show, this woman came up to me, and she was like, "Hey, I'm an interior designer, and one of my clients was a really big boxing fan, and he wanted some boxing art. And I went online and I found one of your pictures, and I just downloaded your picture, and I put it in my house. And I just want to say I'm sorry. And I told my girl about that, Janelle. Janelle's like, she was hot. She was pissed. She's taking money out of our pocket. Janelle, my girlfriend's a pit bull.
But she's right.
Oh, no, she's totally right.
What did you say to that woman in person?
Admitted it.
Oh, she admitted she felt bad, and her husband was like, "Yo, this dude might be upset with you." I mean, I got her card, and I was like, "Well, if you ever need any more art, because like you're like an interior designer in San Diego,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get mad about it. I've just told myself I'm not gonna get mad about things like that. So I just try to like make it a win.
Yeah.
Like, let me get your card, and if you need any more art, hit me up. And don't take my shit no more, lady.
Shit.
Wow.
But that's But it's like also, I try to just look at it as a plus. Like somebody likes my art so much that they're stealing my art, and in a cool way, she saw the person who she took it from, and she had to tell me. So it's affecting people in a way that
Wow.
I mean, I could be pissed about it, but whatever. That doesn't do anything.
Yeah. How have you been choosing the artists
I mostly
that you
choose
to clarify for people, the portraits that you do?
the portraits that I do. It's just like what I'm into. I had this big boxing thing that I was into for a while, so I just started finding boxers from like different countries: Cuban boxers, Mexican boxers, black boxers, old Italian, Irish boxers, and just putting it together. And then I had a dream one night where a bunch of fat rappers were in my dream. So I started taking so many fat rappers too, right? So I started taking the heads of these fat rappers and putting them on sumo wrestlers. So it's just like art just like it just comes to me in a different way, and I just try to put it out there, and I see what people like, and people like different things, and
Yeah. And what about for the redlining series?
For the
Same thing,
redlining-
just people you like.
people I like, and also like I'll find the maps, and I'll see like, oh man, I like the shape of the redlining in this map, so I'll do research on what people are from this area. I mean, when I first started, I already knew the people I wanted to do from the certain areas, but at this point now, it's like, what areas haven't I done? And then I'll do the research. And some people will hit me up like, yo, I'm from Nashville, man. Can you send me a Nashville one? I'm like, well, who's hot from Nashville that you want me to put on? But yeah, that's usually.
And from looking at the art, it's usually you pick like a notable figure and then correspond it to their city that they're from. Is that the way it is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 When you look at it's such an interesting series of art because it's so aesthetically pleasing. Like
It's very powerful. It's very beautiful.
It's
yeah.
beautiful. I can see
you,
how
guys.
people want to buy it and have it framed and put in their house. But when you actually look at what it's such a limited amount of space in the city where African Americans were allowed
Totally.
to live.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are
boom,
just.
boom, boom. clumped together in certain spots.
Yeah, it's just really, truly, it is literally marginalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading about it, redlining in general, and kind of the evolution of it and how many different types there have been. Basically, they were talking about like environmental redlining, or like basically like making sure that minority communities have small parks or like don't have access to like just the like nicer, prettier things and stuff.
Yeah.
They talked about reverse redlining, or like liquor lining, which is where you actually greenlight a bunch of liquor stores to go into a neighborhood, because then that's considered like a vice style business, and then now it's no more, it's not desirable for anybody else to invest in it anymore. They even said that this year the Federal Housing Administration or whatever actually they're suing Facebook for redlining through ads, which basically, because on the Facebook algorithm you can choose the people you want to be targeting, right? But there were people apparently like excluding certain groups from housing ads. So it was like, so say a new hot condos going up or condo buildings going up in your neighborhood, they were targeting it so that it would only go to people who were not basically, it was like single, young, rich, white. They were excluding people who were parents, which was interesting. Anybody of like firstborn or non-immigrant descent, anybody who had liked anything Hispanic, because they can comb all your data and see what you like.
Crazy.
People who are interested in accessibility, so like disabled people. And then as a witch, I was very deeply disturbed. They excluded non-Christians.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, okay, wow, now it's a fight for me. But that was in 2019 of this year that they're suing Facebook for that. So it's this is not something that's like back in the day. It's very active and kind of interesting in the digital space that's a new version of excluding people or giving people access to media or information and stuff. And I do think that like redlining is, if you're not a person who believes in like white privilege or whatever, it's the single most like obvious example of the system. It's literally the system at work on paper. And people don't realize, like, I mean, if that inhibits your generational wealth like that, it's like the single biggest cause of, not the cause, but it's emblematic of all the like systemic problems and structures, you know? And like even my parents, my stepdad and my uncle, they both own homes in Orange County, and on the deeds, like back, and if you're a homeowner, look at your old deeds, it says in it, this property cannot be resold to blacks, Jews, or Mexicans.
Yeah.
And
I think, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's the thing I learned but when I did the series, that just a lot of people don't know about it. And I mean, it's you know, I've been watching Watchmen. Have y'all been watching that? It's like
I've
a
heard
show
good things,
with
but
Regina.
HBO. Yeah. And well, they start off the show with the Oklahoma bombing, right? That's like the first episode, and they really show the whole thing. And Leah, being from Oklahoma, she wrote a whole book about it, and pretty much, she wrote a book about the Armenian genocide, but she did an essay about the Oklahoma bombing. And the next day, so many people were on Twitter, and they're like, "I didn't know this happened. I didn't know this happened. I didn't know this happened." So it's just a lot of like, America has so much racial angst and so much issues about race and what should happen and reparations has been a big topic. So I just think it's hard to have a real conversation when people don't even know what's really happened in the history of just American
and there's no
history.
like, it's not taught in schools, but also it's such a kind of like deep state thing that like why it wouldn't even be taught, because nobody even would know if they didn't work in the financial sectors or weren't involved in that urban planning.
Have you, when you've had, because your exhibit coming up on December 14th, you've had one before.
I've had one before, yep.
Were you approached by any schools or anyone who was interested in purchasing your art for any of their libraries or things? Because your art is aesthetically beautiful and also socially politically powerful, but it also is very educational.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Would you ever be open to having it featured in like a school?
Totally, yeah. Well, the reason I got this art show on the 14th next week, I was doing a comedy show, and somebody wanted to put like my art up at the show for the whole weekend, and I was like, cool, man, yeah, you can use the art. And then this poet saw my art, and she wanted to have her poetry like in a poster form, and she hired me to do some art with her poetry. Older woman, she was really cool, nice lady, hard lady though. You know, she's like, I don't like it like this, Greg. And
Direct.
you need to get back to me sooner, Greg. You know, shit like that. But she was great. And I did her art for her, and she goes to this library all the time. And the library down there, they already have like a huge redlining exhibit down there.
Oh, wow.
It's huge. They have like dates and what happened this day and like not the benefits, but you know, the causes and you know, a lot of arrows and everything. And it's really beautiful. And she had went down there and she had talked to the lady like that runs the library, and she's like, have you heard of Greg Edwards? And no. And she's like, he has this really amazing redlining exhibit. She gave her my website. The lady hit me up and she was like, I'd love for you to come down and we can talk about you doing an exhibit. And I brought some pieces down there and she was like, can you do a show? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, it's been cool. Hopefully the place that made the redlining exhibit for this library will be at the show, and then we can connect and maybe I can get this like touring. But it's all been real positive, and it's all been like really cool. And I'm just thankful that people really dig it and starting conversations. Yeah.
Have in your research about redlining and uncovering these maps, did you ever come across any information about things that are going on maybe like in 2018, 2019 to combat the effects of redlining that are still, you know, affecting people so much in these areas? Or is that just much more of a different?
I think the only thing that when I went down to the library that had the redlining exhibit, I learned more about redlining, and I learned like stuff like what's going on in LA right now with like Highland Park and the LA River. They're trying to like do some type of they're trying to revitalize the area off of the LA River, and they're trying to open it up and make water go through the LA River again. And that's like some type of new redlining thing where they're trying to just gentrify these areas a little bit. But that's really the only thing. And some cities I can't find, which is kind of weird. Like I can't find like some major cities in certain states, some southern states that I'm like, I know y'all got redlining. You know
they're like redlining. We don't know her.
So I'm like,
It's like in Germany how you're not allowed to talk about. They're like, we were on
we don't
vacation.
discuss this. Yeah. So like that's been weird, but also it's this website called the Richmond. God, I can't think of the title, but if you type, it's HRC Richmond, and that's where I got the maps from at first. But yeah, through the months of me doing this artwork, you know, they've been posting more maps. So that's been very like kind of interesting. Like, oh, somebody's doing their research and putting it up there.
Have you found your own hometown?
Oh yeah, I started off with my hometown.
Yeah.
Whoa, what was that experience like?
It was Hampton, Virginia. It was. I mean, I know a lot about the history of my hometown already. My town, where I'm from, is like the first place where slaves came from Africa to the new land.
Oh, so it's like a port.
It's like the
It
port.
was a slave port.
It was a slave port, but also the first place where we stepped foot on this in America.
Oh, like at all?
At all.
Oh, wow.
And one of my friends got a good joke. He was like, damn, so your family just didn't leave. And so I mean, I knew about the history of my town already, but it was cool just to see. It's a small city, my city, but the area. I'm from like an area. It's like very military. 7 cities really close by, and just to see that the maps, small cities, and there are different maps for every little city in my town, and just seeing, you know, famous people from these areas, and the same redlining areas are still like the same hoods.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the really cool thing. Well, not cool thing, but just seeing that and like, wow, this shit hasn't changed since the 30s. Like this part is still fucking dangerous. Still hood, still no hospitals. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
I read too that it was the housing crisis was also related to that, in that they were giving a ton of subprime loans in all of the redlining neighborhoods. Yeah, and that they were saying like even like upper and middle class black families would get worse mortgage loans than the like poorer white family in that same neighborhood. And that they were calling them ghetto loans and like purposely. Oh, and this was crazy that Wells Fargo partnered with black churches to have pastors doing wealth seminars, and that the church would get a kickback for every new mortgage application that came through.
Wow. I mean, this is such a great art series because it's so tied to it. In my eyes, it's so tied to gentrification. I mean, gentrification is basically just moving around the red line. It's what people don't seem to understand about what's so evil about it is like for decades and decades and decades you have these areas that were redlined, and then now these communities are then being disrupted by people who are pricing them out. And so then it's like people coming in being like, no, this is our thing now. We're no longer, this is not going to be applicable to the red line. And then now they have to go out and basically be displaced and then create that same type of red line in another area. You know, it's so it's just such a not a I hesitate to even say current. It's current, but it's also just something that's so always been, you know,
very
it's
entrenched in the systems.
I look at like we all do shows like in Highland Park, and like sometimes I'll just drive down York Street, and I'm not from here, so all I get is like stories of like one of my good friends is Chris Garcia, and he's from LA, so he'll tell me about like Echo Park, like back in the day. He's like, dog, nobody went out to Echo Park back in the day. And I'm like, wow. And just look at it now in Highland Park, like York Street. It's like, man, nobody was over there, man. They had like, they killed some dude over there. And that's the only reason I know about like the numbers in Highland Park, because like some gang.
Oh, the avenues.
This is my family.
Yeah, that's his heritage.
I'm from there.
And like, remember that, I guess it was like the 90s where like some tourists got killed out there. But look at it now. It's like
the gentrification of Highland Park is, because I'm from Igorot, Highland Park area, the whole Nela, Northeast LA area. But like a bunch of my family went to Franklin High, which is in Highland Park. My mom's from Lincoln Heights, Glassell Park, Igorot. All those areas have been gentrified. But in Highland Park, just in the 2000s, I would take the bus from high school, because I was going to high school in East LA at the Cal State campus, and we would take the bus, the 256, and it would leave us off on like Avenue 57 and Figueroa, and that strip now is from just 2007, right? So that's just 12 years ago. Completely different. Back then it was all carnicerias, all panaderias, all like Latino shops, liquor stores that were normal liquor stores, not like fancy hipster ones.
No breweries.
There's right by Little Cave, right by La Cuevita, that bar. That's where like my sister's really good friend was shot and killed in like a gang dispute, and he died right there in front of the liquor store right there. It was a different thing, and that whole like all of Northeast LA was dominated by the avenues, and those are all my brother-in-laws. They're all
all former gang dudes,
all former gang members, and my sisters were like the girls who had to like fight their way into that gang. I know there's a different hierarchy for females in gangs, but that it is a completely different world. That's why like when I'm doing like shows, and there's a lot of shows down there, like the bowling alley, all that stuff. I just look around and I'm just like, it's absolutely crazy how much this place has changed. Also, when you walk on Fig, it's still so segregated in terms of Latino v white. All the white people who live in Highland Park only go to businesses that are made for them. So Home State, Civil Coffee, places like that serve mostly white clientele. All the Latinos are at Antigua, they're at Tierra Mia, they're at El Pescador, they're at all the Latino places. And it's crazy to me that like in a Latino neighborhood, a historical one, these like white people will go to get a taco that's like a $4 taco from Home State, instead of just like patronizing a taco truck or El Pescador, or going to any one of the other great places there that are Latino owned, that are like hanging on. It's that whole area is like it's why Boyle Heights is so militant. What happened to Highland Park is why Boyle Heights are like, oh, you're gonna open an art gallery, we'll throw a chair through your window.
I remember when that shit happened,
and that was Jonathan actually.
I remember watching
my old
that.
apartment. No.
That shit, I get it though. I mean, I totally get it. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. I just wish we could all just just exist together. You know, it's just a
The
fucking
question
rock.
is like, yeah, how do you help or like combat it, or what do you do? There was like some checklist circulating that was like for white people moving into neighborhoods, and it was like the 12 things to like your do's and don'ts, you
Right.
know. And I thought that was interesting.
Because that is true. Just because you are white and moving into a neighborhood that's not white, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gentrifying.
No.
It's just white people usually only patronize gentrifiers, and therefore you're
Right.
part of the problem,
Yeah.
you know? Like, one thing I think is really great is, we've talked about this, Katie, is how Insecure, that show on HBO, presents South LA from a point of view from someone who is from there instead of demonizing it and showing the neighborhood. And I know it's been controversial. People have said that, have accused Issa of like increasing gentrification there.
Yeah, because people want to move out there now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I get also her point of view of it, of like, look, I want to uplift my community so that we can have funding and we can have all these things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know everything about that particular thing, but I do love how when you watch that show, you're like, oh, you are seeing an inside POV of this world.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not just that show. It's also, you know, the NFL stadium in Inglewood, and you
Yeah,
know,
that's
it's
the
so
whole
many
thing.
and just LA. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
wants to be here.
I know.
And it's like, you know, if you're gonna buy property somewhere, why not buy it in LA? Because that property is gonna be worth 2 times the amount in like 10 years. So
Yeah.
It's
it
true.
makes sense.
Guys,
get
I
it.
have a great real estate opportunity for all of
Oh,
us right now. No, I'm kidding.
Let's do it. I'm so down.
How do we? I know it's yeah. That is the really interesting thing though. Like you said, is like we all do want to be here.
Yeah,
everybody keeps
everybody.
coming. Everybody keeps like,
Yeah.
you know. So
Sunny.
you can't blame people. I said I immigrated from Orange County, but
Yeah, I came from Virginia. Me and my girlfriend, we were talking about black gentrification. She was like, you know, it's black people with money.
Yeah.
And they come to areas and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just that we're black. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but it's still gentrification.
yeah,
You know,
It's true.
It's still gentrification.
No, it is very
You're still
true.
gentrifying these neighborhoods, you know, whatever you say, you know.
No, it's so true.
is
There
very
was this. I once had a boss. I was
Yeah.
working in Glassell Park, and it was at this like cafe, and I was honestly working at like one of the gentrifier cafes.
Yeah.
Me and this Filipino chick were the only 2 people from that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, I'm from Seattle. I'm third wave barista train, and it's like. I'm like,
barista train.
it's like this is not hard. You really could have taught some Mexican American and Filipino chicks from the neighborhood to do this stuff.
Yeah.
It's coffee. Like let's relax, you know. But she was telling me about her friend who owns a restaurant up in the northern part of Pasadena where there's a lot of African American people.
Yeah, like Altadena and shit.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And they were accusing her restaurant of being part of gentrification there. And then I guess the owner of this restaurant, her friend was like, but I can't gentrify, I'm Mexican. And they're like, have you been to your restaurant? It literally, like you are the
Yeah.
only Mexican there.
yeah,
And there are not a lot of black people in this place. Like, and it doesn't serve any of those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's also what you just said is like there's a lack of understanding of what exactly gentrification is.
Yeah. It's about money.
Right.
Money and not being
that
from
is
the place.
so interesting. I was because my boyfriend is from South Central Inglewood area, and we were driving, and he was like pointing out that there are new hipster black owned coffee shops. He's like, it's like young black hipsters, and I was like, is that good? That's cool, right? Wait, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, are they from there? Like, you know, is it
Right,
cool?
you know, and then I was like, oh, would it be cool if there was like this is my, I was like, would it be cool if there was like a symbol that like was like, it's black owned, so you can go, but wait, no, that sounds wrong. I was like, that sounds illegal somehow. I don't know. Yeah. Also, anytime where he likes to show me like cool stuff in his neighborhood, you know, whatever. And there's a lot of like really interesting little architectural like spots and stuff. But every time we go, I'm like, I look like your fucking real estate agent. Do not like have me out in this, like, I'm the only white person here. I'm fucking in my little like jacket, like, and I'm literally like walking into private properties being like, I love the detailing there. I look horrible.
Hilarious.
It is interesting though because you just need these community. I mean, it's so much easier said than done, but you just need these communities to have power where there is no power in order for them to control where the money is going in their properties, in their businesses, in their communities. And that's the problem. If it's a community of all renters, you really don't have a lot of power in that
power.
community.
Right.
No power. No power.
You know, that's the one thing that I think is unique about specifically where in Northeast LA that I'm from, Eagle Rock, it started out before it was incorporated into LA as whites only neighborhood. It was a whites only neighborhood. You can go back into the history.
Eagle Rock
was before it was part of LA.
Okay.
It was before it was incorporated. It was only a place that you could rent or buy a property in if you were white, right? When it got incorporated into LA, by the mid part of the 1900s, so around the 60s and 70s, it was overwhelmingly Filipino and Latino.
Yeah.
And there was like white flight out of it because of that. And then now there's more white people coming in, but the difference is that there's been a huge percentage of those Asian and Latino families who moved in back in the 60s and 70s. They bought their properties for a low price. They owned their homes. So like the street that I grew up on is like Filipino, Cuban, Ecuadorian, Mexican. All those families are still there.
They own their shit.
They own their shit. It doesn't matter that Colorado Boulevard is getting like fancy coffee shops. It actually makes their property value go up.
Yeah.
So these communities of color, this particular community of color, it still has some power, where if you look at the demographics of Eagle Rock now, they're still like 75% non-white.
Yeah.
Because there's been less they've had more power and less people have been pushed out, you know? But that's just like, that's a rare thing that does not occur in
most people just rent.
Yeah.
Most people are the people of color that bought their house, are they selling?
I don't know. Okay. I have seen that there definitely are houses for sale, but
that's like almost $1 million house you can sell.
Right.
Yeah.
I have noticed that there's a lot of historic businesses owned by people of color that have been there for 60 years, like El Arcoiris in Highland Park on York, shut down, and they sold. And I don't. Hopefully, they owned the building and they were selling for a lot of money. You know. But yeah, you just need power, and part of that power is property owning.
Totally, you gotta own shit, man. Can't rent.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to, trying so hard to just like, I don't care what it is, yo.
Yeah.
If me and Janelle can find a garage somewhere, I'm like, let's buy that shit.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be worth fucking $600,000 in like 2 years.
You were telling me about your plan once, which I really have thought about so many times, of like buying somewhere in Joshua Tree or in the desert and creating like an artist collective. And if we all kickstart or fund, like everybody put in $1,000, and then you were like, we could do like comedy tours, like bus people out. You can come and stay. Like truly, I want in on this, and I have investors.
If you go to Truly, go to Trulia.com. And it's 29 Palms now, because everybody's in Joshua Tree now.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, you can buy a beat up cabin with 5 acres of land for like $13,000.
Yeah.
And 29 Palms. And just, my dream is to like have a place out here, and finally, like we pay our mortgage, and then I save up like another 15, buy a spot out there, and like, when I don't have any shows, I'm out. I'm I'm fixing up my spot.
That would
hot
be
tub. I'm chilling.
Yeah.
Truly, I'm really not kidding. I'm like, let's talk about this.
I mean, it's really not. It's really not hard to do, and a lot of people are doing it. If you go to Joshua Tree on Airbnb right now, you'll see all these little cabins. People are doing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the like hot thing.
Yeah, it's still expensive out here. You might as well have something.
Yeah. I love the desert.
One thing though about like the buying property, but it applies to like in the city where there's limited housing and stuff, is like what about these people who are like buying properties just to Airbnb them? So they're like staying basically empty. There's no tenant, but it's all just like tourists coming in and Airbnb-ing, you know?
Palm Springs, they put the like kibosh on that.
Really?
Oh, really?
Those, like, there's like a bunch of neighborhoods you drive through, and there's no Airbnbs allowed here.
Wow.
But they're like those, they're all like really dope mid-century gorgeous places that I'm sure a lot of the people do live there full time. And I admit, like, I would be super annoyed if several was doing like bachelorette parties next door in my nice ass, like,
But also you just see like so much homeless people, like back, like where, like down at that, like, did you ever go to that apartment where like me and Paige and Simon used to live like near the 101 freeway?
Oh, in that area?
Yes.
Turn over there? Crazy.
It's
so
much
Hooverville.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's so much homeless people, and then you have these like properties that are just like nice apartments like this, just empty until a tourist comes, you know?
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I used to live in Oakland, San Francisco before I moved out here, and I recently had to go to a funeral about 2 weeks ago, and I was up in Oakland, And I mean, Oakland, San Francisco's always had like a huge homeless problem, but Oakland, not as much. But now it is crazy. It makes LA, I mean, it's just as bad here as it is in Oakland now. And the thing there, I was walking by, I went to the funeral and I left and I just had to cry. So I just walked down the street.
a little walking cry.
I had to walk and cry. And I just walked down the street and I was just crying until I went to like a Starbucks. And and I just passed by like an old park that I used to go to when I was like in my 20s. And it's just like tents everywhere. And it's not just tents. It's like I was walking past one and I just saw all the stuff in there. So it was like somebody got kicked out of their apartment.
Yeah.
And they just brought everything from their apartment and just put it in the park. And that's where they live now. It's crazy.
That is a really interesting thing.
crazy.
It's not kind of the transient vibe. I'm not even saying this is a funny thing, but like I was walking in Vermont. It was at one of the time. It seems like once a year they come and clear out the encampments and then they kind of build back up. And I was walking down and I almost walked into a homeless woman's tent because I thought it was a pop-up because she had plants and signs out front.
Oh, word.
And I literally was like, what is this, craft fair? Like, I literally almost, I was like, oh my God.
That is the.
And it was full on like home sweet home, live, laugh, love signs and her plants all over her little mini apartment.
Frizz,
Like,
that's
How
a
much
great
for this
sketch.
succulent?
That's a great sketch.
dude, I felt so.
That's a great sketch.
Literally, I was like, this is the worst of everything that is happening right now.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Anybody work here?
Oh my God.
That's
it was
a
so
hilarious
bad.
sketch. But yeah, how do you know?
But yeah, that's the real sad
Yeah.
thing is that it's a lot of like just one bad thing. Like all the economic classes are like pushed down on each other. So people who never were like way below.
Yeah. And it can happen. I mean, you like 4 or 5 checks. You're
I know.
out there, man.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's real rough.
Yeah.
But if you do want to have things you can do, I'm a big fan of like ever since, all the chaos of the election and stuff is like working locally. Mm-hmm. Think about the 150 people that are closest to you that you could help or reach out. So start volunteering, tutor, especially for me, like in LA, there's a huge homeless women's crisis and women are like incredibly vulnerable as women on the street. And so I've been wanting to get more involved in the downtown women's shelter and things like that. So I feel like if you are somebody who wants to do something, like donate, try to be more active as locally as possible.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to like do anything,
For your album cover, Dopamine, did you do? I feel like the artwork was kind of.
Yeah.
It was a Redline.
It was
series,
a red
right?
line. I just did it with different colors, and it was my hometown.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Have you, when you've been back to your hometown, is there like a movement of gentrification happening there, or not as much?
Not as much. I mean, my hometown is like, it's beautiful. My area where I grew up, where I was born in, and my parents bought a house like on the line of like 2 cities. And the city that I was born in is rougher than the city that my parents bought a house in. And now when I look on Trulio all the time, there's cheap houses. I mean, not even that bad. Like, not even that beat up. $30,000, 1,700 square feet.
Whoa.
Now.
Oh, wow.
3 bedrooms. But it's not a lot of industry out there.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
kind of
Colleges. A lot of people work for the colleges. It's like a lot of black colleges around that area. There's a shipbuilding industry where most people, when I was growing up, their parents, graduated from high school. They may have went to college, but they worked at the shipyard where they just build military ships. Trump was there maybe 2 years ago, and he did like a whole big thing at the shipyard saying like, we're just going to be building ships for like the next 4 years, which was like, wow, that means a lot of people are going to make money in my hometown, but also, god damn. So I mean, people are buying houses back there, but I don't think they have the mindset of gentrification. Growing up, there weren't a lot of Latinos in my area. There are only Puerto Ricans. Because I live in it's a big military. But now growing up, there's more taquerias. So I mean, it's more Mexicans in my area now, and Mexican people are coming in and buying up property in the downtown Newport News area. But the black folks in the South, when I go back home and I see more of the taquerias, it's no beef. It's just like, man, this food is good. Yeah. It was like, this food is good, and man, these ladies are hot. That's it.
I was in North Carolina a while back, and we went to like the local, whatever museum, and they had a whole floor exhibit on Latinos in the South, and they were saying that by whatever 2025 whatever, it was like that it will be like 60% Latino.
Yeah.
They're the highest growing group. There's so many that like the Southern identity is like not just really gonna go to the side.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Virginia, I mean, so much. When I visit back home and I got boys that live in like DC, Baltimore area now, that's all they say. It's like it's a lot of Mexicans in Baltimore and in Washington DC, which is great. I think it's great because it's more of a melting pot.
Yeah,
and it just keeps the beef.
Just chill.
It's like, all right, now we can let's stretch this out now. Let's just let everybody just come together.
Well, it is one thing that is interesting is like the flip side of gentrification or whatever is that, and my boyfriend and I were joking about because we were raised in like the 90s, whatever. It's like height, and he was from South Central, so it's height of gang. It's like ground zero for gang warfare, race issue, like all that kind of stuff is the hotbed. But we were like kind of laughing that we're like, you just don't see gang members the way you used to. Nope. And when you do, they wear skinny jeans. It's like we were like, I really miss the gang members of our youth, It
truly is like the 90s was a time that was like it did touch if you were living in the real world in any way, it touched you in some way.
Hell yeah.
I remember my sister was walking to another house like from Eagle Rock to Glassell Park, and she came back and she was like, when I was leaving the house, I like was leaving and then I look over and there's like a bunch of gang members behind a bush pointing guns at her, and then they just made the shush sign and then like kind of a get out of here look, and then she just gets out, drives in her car and drove home, and apparently like they just shot up a bunch of people in that house. It was like part of a beef, and she was like, and that was like, but you just don't hear stories like that as she was leaving.
Wow.
Yeah, as much anymore. Yeah, and then also my brother-in-laws have said, oof, crazy shit.
Yeah.
They've pulled once when I was I mean, this is so long ago, maybe the statute of limitations has run out, but like I remember I was like 8 or 9 and I was in the back seat, and it was my brother-in-law and my sister, and they were driving me and their kids, their 3 kids to my parents' house, and he pulled over in this neighborhood in Glassell Park and was like, "Do you see that house? That kid can't walk anymore because I shot into that house and he got paralyzed." And then my sister turned to him. She goes, "And you're fucking proud of that?" And then he just laughs and we drove on it. And then me and all the kids are in the back looking like frightened elves. We're just like, what? Yeah.
It's a different time though.
Crazy. So it is weird. I'm like, I know gentrification isn't good, but that was the era.
Yeah.
We don't see it anymore. It's just a very different.
But gentrification
thing.
Doesn't really fight gang violence. You know what I mean?
No,
it
I'm
just
just saying that
displaces
it's like
those people.
that's the new problem. But like, when we were growing up, I don't know, just gangs were so hot back then, and now it's like there's a ceasefire. I think after Nipsey Hussle got shot, like it's just like. It's just not fun anymore. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No. But it is very like now it is all about school shootings, and you hear less about gang violence in the news. You hear everything about school shootings.
I wanted to do a joke that as a white woman, I will be sending my child to a hood school because there's no gang shootings there. I mean, there's no school shooters there.
Gotta homeschool them.
Yeah.
Homeschool like a motherfucker.
Well, then that's kind of, they get a little weird, but
they do, but.
And I'm not Amish. I mean, it's like
no, I would be so scared to go to a school right now.
It's so wild.
No way.
I know.
I'm homeschooled, man.
So crazy, but I do miss baggy clothes a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
the 90s is coming back. All the Gen Z kids, they're gonna move into the 2020s, and they're all like putting on 90s stuff.
90s shit.
I was walking down the street. I was walking behind 3 teenagers. Okay. This girl had on like a scrunchie like from the 90s and like fluffy hair and the big bangs.
The like chola bangs? Like
no, not chola. No? She was a white girl, but it was like, the fluff.
Like
the
Tiffany
fluffy,
Amber Thiessen.
Yeah, the fluffy mom bangs, right?
Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Yeah.
The dude had that, that like haircut that all the like hunky white dudes used to have where it was like short back here, but then like the long like split bangs down here, wearing a flannel.
Shit.
And I was like, oh, the 90s are back. They're all drawing from like a decade that they don't even remember because they're thinking, oh, this is cool. It's like from another time.
It's different.
Very vintage.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Side note, are you ever going to do a redlining series, but it's all white artists?
Are you
going to do Kurt Cobain in Seattle?
I've been thinking about flipping it like,
You just circle their rich neighbors and you
Yeah.
go, fuck you.
Yeah.
No, I just been it's been like trying to figure out like the next thing I want to do, like artistically. Yeah, but just trying to figure it out. I do like Kurt Cobain though. I've been getting into him more recently. Kurt Cobain and Prince. I don't know why. I just been listening to them a lot lately.
It's our youth.
Yeah.
I got back into Hole, like listening to Courtney Love.
Yeah.
I got fucking pissed the other day, and I was like, I have not listened to Hole in 10 years, and I will just put on Hole right now. And I just walked through the streets listening to Hole, and I was like, I feel like I'm a grunge rocker in the night. Yeah.
I told you when I was painting that vase right over there I was at the fire glaze part on what is it, on Vermont or Hillhurst? There's like a little like color me mine kind of pottery place.
Oh yeah.
And I've never gone, but I was like in a mood, and I was like, I need to paint this out. And and there was a girl there with her friend the whole time. It was like just us in it because it's like a little like whatever. And then at the end, the girl, like the clerk comes over and she's like, can I get a name? Because you have to like glaze it and pick it up later.
Okay.
And then the girl goes, yeah, Frances Bean Cobain. And I was like, what? And
Was it Frances?
Yeah. We were really
was
full on-
her?
And it's funny because when she first walked in, I recognized her, but I was like, maybe she's a female comedian and I can't remember her name. So I don't want to even like talk
Yeah.
to her like and be like a bitch. And then I was like, that's why I recognized her face.
Yeah.
Said
But
her whole name.
yeah, that was the real thing. I was like,
You want to be recognized if you said.
Frances
she
Bean.
full on said
Cobain.
Frances Bean Cobain. Yeah.
Just say Francis.
Just
Yeah.
say Bean. Just yeah.
Frances B.
Frances
Yeah.
Bean Cobain.
That's where I was like, oh, that was a power move.
Yeah.
Such
But
a
you know
power
what?
move.
She got me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hold up. So okay, this the gold one.
No. Right here, the see the sunglasses hanging off on this.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
You got that done there?
I did that. Yeah.
You
It's a
did
bunch
that?
of labyrinths on each side.
It honestly, it's so for the listeners who are not here, it's like a pencil holder. It actually looks like the configuration from Hellraiser. If you guys know what that
it
is,
looks like a bunch of Illuminati
Yeah.
symbols on each side, but they're all labyrinths because I love labyrinths because you are always walking forward, and it winds you all the way in. People think labyrinths and maze are the same, and they're not. A maze, you have options where to go. Labyrinth is always forward. You follow the whole path, but it takes you all through the maze.
Oh, that witch shit. That's what I'm talking
It
about.
really truly is to me because it's a symbol for life because you're always going forward, even though sometimes you feel like you're like doubling back.
Yeah, you gotta start selling your shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're,
I mean-
you're artistically, yeah.
For real. You'd be surprised, man.
Really little, but I have because of my new house. I have been Etsying a lot, and I've been like, these bitches, please.
Yo.
I'm like, honey, I could do.
French,
Yeah.
you
Give me
should
some Photoshop. I'll give you. I'll give you some basic bitch quotes.
Start
for
a
sure.
website,
I'm gonna
French.
do a witch. There's a Witch already. It's an actual website called a Witch like instead of Etsy.
You should though.
But it's too goth. It's very hot topic stuff. But yeah,
You got skills.
we'll have some
Definitely got
fun.
skills.
And Greg, I wanted to ask about doing visual arts versus comedy for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that it's therapeutic? Do you find it's just you get out of your mindset comedically? What do you like about visual arts?
It's so therapeutic. You know, comedy. I've been doing comedy for a long time, and sometimes the game is just tiring, and it's just always something to do. It's like I gotta fix my website. Let me send out fucking show requests. I got a show. Let me fucking put a flyer for November. Let everybody know where I'm at. Just,
Yeah.
you know, it's just
Yeah.
always something to do. And I mean, I love doing comedy, but sometimes it's just not fun. And sometimes I want to just have something that doesn't mean anything. I'm not trying to get anything from it. So yeah, it's just relaxing.
Did you always do art? Did you do art before comedy?
I've always. I mean,
Little
like
you were just tagging up your little binders, weren't you?
totally. I mean,
Yeah.
and even with I'll look back on like joke books from like the early 2000s, and it's like it's jokes, but it's hella art in there.
Oh, that's cool.
I was talking to my little brother recently. He was like, "Man, you still be drawing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I be drawing still, man."
He doesn't follow you on Instagram?
They'll,
He does.
are you saving those? Do you save those notebooks with like the old notes from your early comedy
I
days?
got everything. I was hanging out with Leah recently, and Janelle was just talking shit about me. And
It's very funny
Your-
comedian
your
Leah
fiance.
Kajanian.
my fiance was
Fiance,
talking
Janelle.
shit
Yeah.
to Leah about me. Like, you know how we all like, I like to write jokes on like random shit. Like I'll write jokes on this.
Yeah.
I'll write jokes. Like if I don't have anything, I'll write jokes on the back of this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just have them around the house. And Janelle doesn't throw them away. You know,
Oh,
she
that's
doesn't throw them away.
nice.
She's
Yeah.
like, look, I don't throw your shit away, but you know, you got to get better with this. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, you're like, I'll collect them and then I'll write them all in a pad and then I'll throw them out.
Yeah.
And then Leah was like, yo, you should just grab them all together and do some art with it. And I was like, oh, that's a really good
It
idea,
would be
man.
really
Yeah.
cool to
just-
see.
Just a bunch of shit together, and then you throw some other shit up there with it. So yeah.
And it could be a thing where like 100 years from now, you could have like a Greg Edwards house museum, like the Frida Kahlo exhibit,
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
look at
God.
you look at just like the journals and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
all like exactly how you left it.
Hell yeah.
It's
That'd
all
be
just
cool.
naked pictures of Coretta Scott King.
With a unibrow for some reason.
Yeah.
You just
That's
like,
a nice mix-up. I like
Yeah.
that. Coretta with a unibrow. Oh, I think you might be on something, right? I like that.
there's something about like Frida and what she did for the unibrow where it's like as soon as you put a unibrow on, you're evoking her in some way.
Totally.
And it's like there's something I don't know what it says, but it's like you're saying something about femininity there. You know what I mean?
She owned it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did on it. She
Like-
was witchy, very witchy too, right?
Yeah, very witchy. Like you know that Spanish Catalan artist, Rosalia.
Yeah.
She in her new video she did a unibrow
Oh, yeah.
in her.
great.
Yeah,
I like her too.
she's good.
She is really good.
Yeah,
She's nice and thick, too.
she is getting thick.
Yeah.
She's getting thicker.
Speaking of thickness, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but I mean, Greg is like so ripped. You guys don't know him, but like,
Oh, really?
didn't I ask you last time? I was like, how do you buy jackets? It looks like they're like,
Sometimes
he's
it's-
so ripped. Like, follows Instagram for his art and his stuff, but also
trying to
his
get
arms
smaller.
are crazy.
Trying to get.
I'm trying to
thin.
get bigger.
You trying to get bigger?
Yeah. Do you see my tits got bigger?
I see your arms getting bigger.
I've been eating and
He's
I've
been
been
titting.
lifting.
That's what
Getting
we're calling
thick?
it.
I call
You
it
lifting?
titting. Yeah. I want
Nice.
to get thick. I want to get like fat strong.
Okay.
Like you know the muscle, like you see the muscle, but it's not so shredded. It's like there's some fat over it. Because I don't want to be like hard.
Okay.
Like super hard. I want the arm. You know what I mean? I want to
No,
be thick.
I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
He. I mean, Greg has. It's like how much?
Oh, yeah.
Do you just?
No, he has a
lift
good
all the
body.
time? What's
I
the
lift.
sitch?
I mean, I basically do the same workout. I mean, not. No, I run when I'm on my regiment. I run like 2 to 3 miles a day, and do my sit-ups, and then I just bench and I'll do free weights. But I'm trying to like change it up because I'm old now, so I got to just do different things. But yeah, I'm trying to get away. I don't want to lift as much anymore. I want to like slim down, try to drop some weight. But
Give
I
those
gotta-
jackets a break.
Give those
It's
jackets
not
a
the
break.
jackets. It's the jacket arms.
It's the
Like,
arms.
I mean,
So-
literally, his arms are like so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
so muscular.
your arms are my dream arms. Like I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I.
Your arms are my dream legs.
I gotta
dream
slim
thighs.
down.
Oh yeah, no, and he lifted his forearm and he had like a nice vein going. Yeah.
I
That's
gotta
hard to
slim-
get. That
I gotta
takes
slim
work.
down.
There you go.
I went
Yeah.
to the gym this morning. Yeah, the gym is fun in LA. So wild.
All the ridiculousness.
It's just, I mean, the shit I see at an LA gym, and like all the different times. Like if you go early in the morning, you see like the early gym rats. There's this model that comes to my gym now. Like if I'm at the gym at like 6:30, it's this dude. He's like 6'4", like just beautiful dude. Looks like light skin with this like blondish hair and hella thin. He's just running.
Like a gazelle.
Just running.
He's got to do that cardio.
Just running, right? And he pulls up in his like drop top Mercedes with this big buff black dude that's old, and then he trains him, and it's him, and it's just like the random people you see, and yeah, it's just fun, and you just see people that's just there. It's okay, you know Rafa's Lounge.
yeah.
I'll see Rafa in the gym. But Rafa just goes to the gym for the hot tub.
Really?
Straight to the hot tub. No working out. No,
Oh my
just in the
God.
hot tub.
He's like, my muscles need the relaxation.
It's just funny. I love the gym in LA. Yeah.
Especially because I'm a newer lifter. I'm a noise guy, so
Oh,
like
nice.
I have to because I'm trying to do the whole thing of like lift heavy, eat a lot, build mass, like that
Okay.
whole thing. So you have to lift like more than you think you could,
Totally.
and I'm just like I'm that guy, and
He becomes straight at the gym.
yeah, and I have some weights in my apartment, and my
Good.
boyfriend, he'll be cooking, and I'll just be like, like just like, oh, and he'll just be like, go. He's like so grossed out, but he's like, go to the gym. That's so gross.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. How much? What are you doing? The bench? The
Um,
free weights?
I'm doing both free weights, and then I have a bar. I don't have a bench unless I'm using the gym.
Okay.
So I kind of make my own bench at
Nice.
my apartment. Yeah.
Okay.
But the most I can do right now is 120. So that's not that. It's starting out.
Yeah. That's good.
So yeah.
Good, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Greg, can you tell us where we can find your art and where we can find your comedy?
Yeah, you can find my art at GregEdwardsArt.com, and you can find my comedy on GregComedy.com, and also art and comedy on my Instagram account.
And arms.
Which is, and arms on Greg Comedy on Instagram, and follow my Twitter, Greg the Grouch, on Twitter. And thank you guys. This has been super fun.
Of course.
So thank you
I
so
love
much for
y'all.
coming.
I've been knowing y'all for so long. It's
Yeah.
just great to catch up.
We'll be at the show next week.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
come.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
course.
It's going to be a smaller version of my other show, but yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah,
excited.
and buy his album Dopamine.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Greg.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Greg.
guys.
Bye.